My name is Cleopatra, but not just any Cleopatra. I am Cleopatra VII, Queen of the Nile and the last Pharaoh of Egypt. But let me tell you something that most forget. I wasn't the first Cleopatra. I was the seventh of my name. My lineage stretches back through centuries of rulers. Powerful, cunning, and yes, sometimes cruel. The name Cleopatra means glory of the father in Greek. And my father left me a throne, a crumbling kingdom, and a legacy soaked in blood. They call me Egyptian, but I was Macedonian by blood. My family, the Ptolemies, came from Greece and ruled Egypt for over 3 centuries. Yet unlike my ancestors, I refused to rule from a distance. I embraced the land, its gods, its language, and its people. I was the first of my dynasty to speak Egyptian, not just Greek. That was my first rebellion. They talk about my beauty, as if that's all there was. Some say I was mesmerizing, others say I was plain. But my true power lay not in my face. It lay in my voice, my wit, and my mind. I could speak 9 languages. I could command a room. I could command armies. I wasn't a fantasy. I was a queen. Yet even a queen is born from sin. My bloodline was preserved through generations of incest. It's true, brother marrying sister, cousin wedding cousin. Even my own parents were likely siblings. It was the only way to keep the divine blood of the Ptolemies pure. And so, I was born with a crown of gold and a shadow of doom. When I was only 14, I was made co-regent with my father. I sat beside him in court, listened to his advisors, learned how to read a room, and how to manipulate one. By 18, after his death, I inherited the throne, but not alone. I was forced to marry my 10-year-old brother, Ptolemy XIII. Yes, a child. My husband. My rival. My burden. I had no intention of being ruled by a boy, even if he was my brother. I erased his name from official documents, removed his face from the coins, and ruled as if I were Pharaoh alone. But the gods were not kind to me. Famine swept the land. The Nile betrayed us, and the people grew restless. Rome began to interfere. My brother, backed by powerful Roman hands, rose against me, and I was exiled. I had nothing, no throne, no army, no home, but I had my will, and I had a plan. I would return, stronger, smarter, and the world would remember my name. When I was exiled from Egypt, I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I watched the sands of my kingdom slip through my fingers, and I swore I would return. The gods hadn't abandoned me. They were simply testing how far a queen would go to reclaim her throne. Rome was breathing down our necks, pretending to be an ally, yet always hungry for more. My brother, barely a boy, was nothing but a puppet to them. But I knew how to move in silence. And so I crossed the desert, with only my most loyal servants and a plan that would change the world. He was in Alexandria, the Roman general, Gaius Julius Caesar, a man feared by senators and loved by soldiers. Ruthless, brilliant, and grieving. Pompey, his rival and former ally, had just been murdered by none other than my brother. And Rome does not forget insults. I had to reach him, but my name alone would not open the doors of power. So I did what they never expected. Wrapped in silks, I was smuggled into the royal palace, hidden inside a rug. Yes, a carpet, rolled and bound like a gift. They laid me at Caesar's feet, and when they unrolled me, there I stood, in full royal regalia, eyes burning with purpose. He didn't speak right away. He only looked, studied me like a general studies a battlefield. Then he said, "You are either mad or magnificent? I smiled. I am both. We became allies. Then, lovers. It was not love at first sight. It was survival. I needed him to restore my reign. He needed me to restore his pride. But somewhere in between politics and war, our arrangement deepened. He saw in me not just a queen, but an equal. And that, to a man like Caesar, was rare. Together we raised an army, and together we crushed Ptolemy XIII. They say he drowned in the Nile, a boy king sinking beneath the waters he tried to control. I reclaimed the throne, not just as pharaoh, but as a woman reborn in fire. From our union came a son, Ptolemy Caesar. The Romans would call him Caesarion, Little Caesar. He had my eyes, his father's chin, and the weight of 2 empires in his veins. We sailed to Rome, not to visit, to make a statement. They called me exotic, dangerous, a sorceress. Let them speak. I walked through the forum in robes of gold. I dined in Caesar's villa, watched by the jealous eyes of senators and noblewomen alike. I wasn't there to be accepted. I was there to be remembered. But even in power, there are shadows. Caesar refused to name my son as heir. Instead, he chose Octavian, a soft, calculating boy with cold eyes. A boy I knew would one day come for me. And then, the knives fell. On the Ides of March, they murdered him, in the Senate. Not in battle, but with whispers and betrayal. Over 60 men. They didn't just kill a general, they killed my future. Rome turned against me, again. But I didn't beg. I didn't weep. I took my son and returned to Egypt, where my throne awaited. But I would never be the same woman again. Once, I had shared my bed with a god among men. Now, I ruled alone, and my enemies multiplied. Caesar was dead. The Lion of Rome torn apart by men too small to bear his shadow. And with him, the shield that once protected Egypt was gone. I returned to Alexandria in silence. My people greeted me as a queen, but I felt like a widow of fate. Caesarion, my son, would never rule Rome. And Octavian, the pale boy Caesar had named his heir, was rising, slowly, methodically. He smiled with his lips, but ruled with daggers. Then came another Roman. Not a boy, a man. Marco Antonius. Mark Antony. He summoned me to Tarsus, a city far from my throne, demanding to know why Egypt had not supported Rome's recent wars. They say he expected a frightened woman. Instead, I arrived on a golden barge, sails dyed purple, oars of silver, and music trailing me like perfume. I sat beneath a canopy dressed as Isis, goddess of magic and life. My servants, dressed as cherubs, cooled me with fans. And Mark Antony, he was speechless. From the moment our eyes met, something ancient stirred. We didn't fall in love like poets write. We fell like empires do, with force, noise, and no thought of turning back. He followed me back to Egypt. He drank our wine, spoke our language, prayed to our gods. We laughed deep into the night, gambled, feasted, made love as if the world were not watching. But it was. Rome watched, and it did not approve. He had a wife, Octavia, sister of Octavian. She was Rome's image of modesty, patience, and duty. I was everything they feared. Ambition, seduction, mystery. And yet, Antony stayed. Together we ruled not just as lovers, but as monarchs. He gave me lands, titles, and gifts no Roman had ever offered another. In return, I gave him sons. Twins. Cleopatra, Selene, and Alexander Helios. The moon and the sun. Then another boy, Ptolemy Philadelphus. 3 children of blood, born from passion, raised with the weight of 2 civilizations in their cradles. But love is not enough when war is near. Rome declared us enemies. They called Antony a traitor, bewitched by a foreign queen. They mocked our children, and they crowned Octavian their savior. War came. It always does. Antony gathered his ships. I brought my armies. Together, we stood at Actium, a final stand, a desperate gamble. The sea wind screamed, arrows flew like rain, and in the smoke, everything fell apart. Our fleets scattered. Our allies fled. I turned my ship back to Alexandria, tears hidden behind a veil of silence. Antony followed, his pride shattered. We lost not just a battle, we lost the future. The Nile turned cold. The palace, once full of music, now echoed with dread. Octavian was coming, with legions, with judgment, with no mercy. Antony tried to fight still, but his heart was already broken. He drank more, laughed less. He knew what I knew. Rome would never allow us to live. Not together, not even apart. So we danced one final time. A night of wine and memory. We watched the stars and wondered if the gods above had ever loved as we had. He kissed my forehead and went to meet his death.